Let's getty spaghetti with time for ready. It's ready time, speddy time. Bup.
What's speddy?
It's like a sort of long pasta.
Speddy is a long pasta. What's your favourite type of pasta?
You know, honestly, if this is a safe space, I'll be honest with you right now.
You know it's not, but go on.
The pasta that I buy most often, it's spirals. It's a Trevally, man. It's a Trevally.
No, isn't that a facility?
It's Trevally. That's what it says on the packet.
Trevally.
Trevally.
You know what that means, right?
Delicious spirals.
No, do you know what it says about you?
What does it say?
It says you're a pedophile.
What?
Because that's fucked up. That's fucked up.
Is it?
Yeah, I saw it on one of those BuzzFeed things, like what
your pasta says about you.
Says about you and all pedophiles.
What?
It's one of those weird things.
God.
Like Trevally.
Now I really regret saying this in a public forum.
Yeah.
Well, what's yours?
Well,
What's yours?
You know, I've fluctuated over the years, Nick. Thanks for asking. I've fluctuated. I used to be a huge fettuccine guy. Like seriously, huge.
Well, I'm not here to kink shame.
All of my favorite, all my heroes at the time were all fettuccine, types.
Yeah.
And in my older age, I'm leaning more towards like a penne.
Okay.
A penne. A ribbed penne. It's just the best one. The sauce, it catches the sauce in the ribs and also allows the sauce to run through the tube. And I just like to get it on my fork and put it in my eye.
Do you think that that's as you've become more confident about your sexuality? You didn't feel the need to like outwardly display these long sort of flapping fettuccines.
Yeah.
You could just be a little bit more comfortable with your size, which is a small sort of hollow tube.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and look, I was going to say rigatoni as well, but that would have been too obvious. But yeah, that's exactly right. Like as soon as I became secure in my sexuality, it was like,
Put that fettuccine away, Mum. I don't need it anymore.
Yeah. I don't need a tubular spaghetti.
Yeah.
A bucatini, if you will.
Uh-huh. I don't enjoy a pasta which has a hole in it. I'm just going to say it. I don't like that vibe.
Well, this fits, doesn't it?
How? How can you claim that is a purely heterosexual fascination? Go on.
It took me 2 seconds, honestly, maybe 1.5 seconds to realize that was false.
Uh-huh.
But also, you've had a go at me before about assuming that all gay sex is in the asshole.
That's true.
Which I took on board, and clearly, I'm now more progressive than you.
You are.
Because I didn't assume that gay sex was just butthole sex.
Uh-huh. Well, you know what? I'm going to take back my outrage. Good for you.
Thank you.
You've really stepped up and embraced non-butthole sex as a valid form of gay intercourse. So good for you.
Thanks, man.
I never thought we'd get
Welcome
here.
to the show.
This is Deep Forward. Thank you for being here. Oh, what a pleasure. This is a podcast in which we talk to each other about interesting things in the world. Look, I wasn't ready for the intro. I'm just going to say it. I wasn't ready. I felt the need to do it, but I wasn't ready. Sitting through the internet with me, my friend Michael. Hey, how are we doing?
How are we doing? I didn't hear any of that spiel because the internet dropped out, I think.
And my name's
But
Nick.
who cares? I got that part.
Nothing. Oh, how you been?
Why am I having... Good, just quickly, why am I having internet weirdness?
I don't know. I can hear you and see you.
It's usually fine.
Yeah, usually it's
I
me
might
and
just
Ken.
stop the video recording because we don't use that anyway, do we?
We don't really. We can put up the butthole
It's just for
clip.
me to look at later and just look in your tiny little crab-like eyes.
So you've been good?
Been pretty good. I've been a bit. I almost got attacked, I think, before.
What?
Because I went to the supermarket. I live on quite a busy street in inner Melbourne, and there was a woman standing outside. There's like a Coles, and she was staring at her reflection. And I don't want to be mean or anything to anyone who might have a mental problem or two, but this was kind of funny. Like, she was being kind of funny to me. Like, she was looking at herself in the mirror. She had an empty Stein glass, and she was just talking to herself and then cracking up laughing. And I was like, first of all, I relate. And she was like having full on conversations, and she was having a great time. And then when I got out, she looked at me because the screen, there was like glass doors that automatically opened.
So was it an actual mirror she was looking at, or she was just in a reflection in the glass?
She was just a reflection in the glass.
Yeah.
But I think what happened is, as I got out, the glass doors moved, and then her reflection, who she was in her defense having in mid conversation, opened and was replaced with me. And I think she was angry about it and started yelling at me in, I think, Vietnamese.
Okay.
I think she was Vietnamese, so that wasn't a weird part of the story. She wasn't like Spanish.
That fit with your expectations.
Yeah, and then she started yelling at me. I didn't understand, and then she like held up her Stein glass as if she was going to whack me with it, and I went, ooh. I think I actually, because I had my headphones in, so I could have made any noise. I wouldn't have been aware of it.
Yeah.
And I just went, ooh, and just kind of ran across the street.
Was
that was in the last 20 minutes.
Were you the only person around?
No, this is a busy street. I mean, she's probably done this to thousands of people.
Have you considered that maybe it is a store promotion and it's some kind of way to encourage people talking about Coles, get that, brand out there and generate a little bit of grassroots hype? So everyone's talking about the Mirror Gran. Let's go to Coles, see if we can find her. And, you go there and maybe that you discover that prices are down. Down. Prices are down.
Yeah. They're fucking down. I hadn't considered that for even a New York minute, Nick. But yeah, you're possibly right. I mean, I do love how they've marketed themselves. I picked up some eggs before, and they've got these like, I don't know if you remember this from your time in Australia, but they've got like Coles eggs. It's kind of just like a green label, and it's like just Coles free range eggs. Got to buy free range.
Got to buy the French.
And they've moved now to Coles free range eggs, but they're going, and Woolworths is doing this too. They're going for this all like farmers kind of markety kind of vibe now. And they've got like a farmer on there, and they've got pictures of chickens on there. So they're spending more on their branding.
Okay.
Even though it's still essentially a home brand buy.
Yeah.
But now they've got pictures, and the chickens that they had on these eggs, like it's a painting, not a painting, but it's a picture.
A label?
It's a label.
It's a really sort of
done.
It's like a Picasso-esque 2D sort of abstract chicken.
Yeah,
really
like
sort of gets you in like an artistic mood.
Yeah, but the chickens are spaced so far apart, and they look so happy.
These are the eggs sculptors prefer.
Yeah. And I just thought, like, there's no way in fuck that these chickens are that happy. and also that, like, they had like this nice like orange glow about them.
Yeah.
Like
they were sitting on the ridiculous beach. They were sipping out of a half coconut. And you're thinking they probably
pina
didn't
coladas.
spend more than an afternoon there. That would have been just the photo shoot.
But honestly, Nick, they look like they're on holiday, these chickens. But I just thought the artist and Coles has taken some massive liberties with this depiction of free range living.
Yeah.
As a chicken. But yeah, anyway.
That's birdwatch for you.
What's going on with you, my dog?
Not much. I've been in a slightly closer bubble as the date of our departure to Australia nears. I just really don't want to get sick in like the week before the trip and then have complications about being able to travel or not travel.
Now, can you tell me that date again?
It is the 8th of April.
That is great.
Yeah, 8th of April we are
'Cause-
flying to Adelaide, and then on the 22nd back to Melbourne, out on the 25th from Melbourne. So your relevant dates 22nd to 25th.
That is great because I just made some big plans directly either side of that without even considering that. Yeah, without considering that you're coming back. But then I did realize in the car to work, shit, Nick's coming, and I don't know the date. So lucky guess, but yeah, I would have cancelled my plans.
Oh,
Anyway,
that's sweet.
I mean, I say that now that I don't have to.
Yeah, now
but
you
yeah.
don't have any like skin in the game. Yeah. So yeah, just knowing that that's less than about 3 weeks away now, and
Yep.
I just like that we're still in sort of a peak Omicron over here. Cases are dropping slowly. It'll probably have declined in Auckland, but it's still rising in Canterbury, which is where Christchurch is.
You haven't dealt with the son of Omi yet, have you? Though
We are, I think, mostly BA2. I think we are.
BA2.
Yeah,
Who's that?
that's the Omicron variant.
Oh, so you're mostly BA2.
I think that's
I've just
I think we
adopted
are.
it now.
Yeah, you just like within 10 seconds you were on board.
That's how my brain works. I just immediately start mimicking people.
That's so squanch.
Okay.
That's so squanch of you.
I
what?
know.
What's squanch?
I
mean?
love to squanch. I love to squanch. So yeah, So you're gonna. You're trying to wait it out. Are you doing anything differently though? Are you not going out as much as you? Because that's the thing. Like you maybe don't care. Maybe you care about getting it, but like I was the same when I was going away. I was like, I just want to hang on until I get there.
Yeah. I just don't because you have to do tests before leaving and on arrival in South Australia. So I just really want to get through. Yeah, if you're into Nash. So I really just want to get through without that flare up so that I can get in and actually enjoy the holiday. In terms of changes, it's not been too severe because I'm pretty good in terms of wearing a mask. I suppose because I work from home as well, that's a little bit easier. But I suppose the biggest risk factor I'd had previously or risk exposure was just going to the gym, because at the gym you're allowed to take your mask off. And
here we go.
Well, you asked. That's like the one weird situation, right, where you can exercise without a mask on, but that's like the most exhalation and like sweat and like droplet kind of central area that you could go to.
You're
right?
You're not getting COVID from a sweat droplet. Come on.
Well, not sweat, but like it's just it's a moist environment. It's a moist environment.
Yeah, it is.
So so in at the gym now, I'm working out with a mask, which is not that much fun, but I feel like that has been my biggest risk factor, and that is the simplest way I can to avoid exposure.
Sure. I haven't worn a mask in probably 3 weeks.
It's interesting because
which is crazy.
We had one of KC's friends from Melbourne over here came back. He's originally from New Zealand and came back, unfortunately, for a funeral. But he'd been in Melbourne, and his experience, I think, has been a bit like, wow, way to like go back in time to when everyone has to wear a mask, and people are scanning in and being cautious about contact tracing and all this kind of thing. And he was very much like, nah, fuck this, I'm done with it. But then all of his family got COVID and now he's sick. So maybe he should have taken it seriously.
Yeah. I had to listen to ABC Radio Perth for something for work the other day. And it was interesting to hear like people call in and they were going like, they were angry at the government for not contact tracing or not notifying, parents of the school that were alerted and stuff. And like all the things that they were talking about on this talkback show were just like, I was like, wow, this is like 4 months ago for us. Like, it's so crazy how we just like left it.
Yeah.
And it's now.
So where was this happening?
Thing of the past. Perth.
Yeah.
Perth, who had only just opened up their borders. They've basically been COVID-free for the whole pandemic, and they've opened their borders now.
Yeah, and that's
like looking back in time.
Our New Zealand situation at the moment is still like around 20,000 cases a day. We're up to now, I think 1/10 of the population has had it, which
Really?
is pretty massive. We're still having deaths, like 10 to 15 deaths every day. So it is the worst that it's ever been. And yet, strangely, it's kind of also when things are starting to loosen up a little bit with the borders reopening and a general understanding that if you came back in from overseas, you don't have to isolate because it's rampant here. So it's just an interesting contrast, really, when you think about all the hard work that was done earlier successfully.
Well, it's an interesting social experiment in many ways, and I'm sure they'll look back on this in the future and there'll be a lot that we can learn from it. But it's an interesting social experiment in the sense that we were like, the media was like, it's really hyped up and it's all everyone thought about and it's mask and it's like your perception of COVID is that like if you get it, you're going to die. And then all of a sudden, this is at least our experience, I think, in Victoria, that they just drop it. Okay, so we don't start hearing about the case numbers that much anymore, and we don't start hearing about all this like fear stuff. And then you just walk out and you're like, huh. It's like, it seems fine. And I know that COVID still exists and people are dying and people are still getting sick. But it's funny that when you're like trapped up in your home and you're getting this information from the media, and I'm not saying this was incorrect information, I'm just saying it was kind of just shoved down our throat 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that when it creates this boogeyman for you, and you do start to feel scared about it, even just leaving the house. And then you realize, I guess it's because, people can get it and people that get it, and then they're fine or whatever. And you realize, okay, maybe it's not so bad, but yeah.
Well, but I mean, the other stuff that you're eliding in the middle of all that is so much progression in the terms of the medical support network there, right? Like we have vaccinations. That is a night and day difference in terms of our ability as a sack of meat to fight off this thing. We're also dealing with the 20th variation of it now, which has mutated to a less severe level, and we're dealing with government systems and healthcare systems which have now had 2 years to put in processes in order to handle an influx of patients, and our hospital beds are filling up. It is actively making a lot of people sick. I think 1,000 people are in hospital across New Zealand with COVID. And there are people dying every day, like in their 20s and 30s. Like it is still killing people. But you're right that the context for it all was now so completely different, so that the social weight of it has lifted slightly. The numbers game has sort of changed a little bit, where we're in a different kind of statistical place now, where the odds of you personally being, subjected to a really tough illness with long-term consequences has decreased. And that just allows for a little bit of, psychological easing, right?
Yeah. And yeah, you're right. And my dad had a COVID scare last week where he was feeling a bit crook, and did a rat test and then posted it on our family chat, and the second line was kind of faint, and I looked on the TGA website and it said that if it's even a faint line could suggest
it's positive,
COVID.
Yeah.
Turns out he didn't have COVID, but he went and visited his mum, my grandmother, my babcha, the Ukrainian one, who is anti-vax and has been going to this cult-like church where the priest has been telling her that the devil lives in the vaccine, don't get the vaccine. The priest has been telling the congregation, don't get the vaccine, and she's incredibly highly susceptible to listening to her priest.
Yeah.
So she has refused to get it, and my dad had a thing where it's been like, shit, if Baba gets it, she was like late 80s.
Yeah.
I mean, she's still got her wits about her, apart from,
the physical side is
crazy
weak, right?
God shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you got to expect that in an 88-year-old woman or whatever, she's compromised. But then it was like, oh shit, like she's been so anti getting the vax, like this is going to be the thing, I mean, imagine if she gets it and dies or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it would really bring home that stuff, even though shouldn't need someone like that personally to bring that home for you, but it
It
just
always would. Yeah. Yeah, there are people like I am friends with on Twitter and that sort of thing who I've known for ages who I've seen come down with it, and it doesn't sound like much fun at all. And obviously George had it, and she didn't really like it either. So yeah, I'm still very much in that position where I don't want that. Just to go back a step, your dad, so how did he have a faint yes line but not have COVID? Did he get another test?
Yeah, he did another test, and he didn't have any other symptoms apart from that one day. He was also singing in the band the night before, so it was like more of a I've been singing all night kind of thing.
As in his feelings of the symptoms were potentially from that, but the subsequent rats didn't show it.
Yep. Huh. So
that's good news.
Oh, just slightly changing, massively changing tax, but my parents are just reminded me. My parents are actually, you know what? Don't want to talk about that either. I'm just imagining the text because I get text after every fucking episode now.
Yeah. Maybe you should say something like, I was just thinking the other day how much I love my parents.
You know, Nick, I was just thinking the other day. Wait, can you do like a little dreamy thing, like a dream sequence thing?
Okay, yeah.
You're like, okay, fine.
The number of like audio requests you throw into the mix. At least last week you did listen to it. Did you hear me? Yeah, I put in your fucking horns for you.
I was actually touched by that.
Oh, there you go.
Because I know, because I'm a creative machine.
You're an ideas man.
I'm an artist. I'm an ideas man, and I just like to throw spaghetti.
That's why
at the
you
wall.
buy Coles eggs.
And unfortunately, you're just that wall, and you have to, you just have to take it.
Yeah.
So I did really appreciate your edit.
Throw your penne at me.
The Bossa Nova George Clooney news.
Yeah.
Bossa Nova George Clooney news Bossa Nova GCN was fucking beautiful, dog. Okay. It was fucking gorgeous.
Great. It was just a standard track I dragged out of the Logic Pro library, but I feel like it works.
Chuck it on our SoundCloud. I reckon. But yeah, I just wanted to say how much I love my mum and my dad, and my brother and sister, and everyone who listens to this podcast. Well, just cheapened it, so there you go.
Oh, that's very sweet and unprompted of you, Michael. I'm sure that everyone affected will send you an appreciative text. What are we going to talk about this week? Do we have plans?
Okay. Well, I just saw this article circulating. I think it's kind of a rehashy thing, but it was an article that said that there was an MIT computer program in the 70s that predicted that civilization will end by 2024. So maybe I'll just read a bit of this article?
Yeah, please do.
Okay, it starts off with a bit of Isaac Newt chat. So in 1704, Isaac Newton predicted the end of the world sometime around the year 2060 using a strange series of mathematical calculations. Rather than study what he called the Book of Nature, he took as his source the supposed prophecies of the Book of Revelation. While such predictions have been central to Christianity, it is startling for modern people to look back and see the famed blah, blah, blah. Over 300 years later, we still have plenty of religious doomsayers predicting the end of the world with Bible codes, but in recent times, their ranks have seemingly been joined by scientists whose only professed aim is interpreting data from climate research and sustainability estimates given population growth and dwindling resources. The end of the world in these scenarios means the end of modern life as we know it, the collapse of industrialized societies, large-scale agricultural production, supply chains, stable climates, nation states. Since the late 60s, an elite society of wealthy industrialists and scientists known as the Club of Rome, in brackets it's got here, a frequent player in many conspiracy theories, has foreseen these disasters in the early 21st century. One of the sources of their vision is a computer program developed at MIT by computing pioneer and systems theorist Jay Forrester, whose model of global sustainability, one of the first of its kind, predicted civilizational collapse in 2040. These predictions include population growth, and pollution levels, worsening quality of life, and dwindling natural resources. And then Australia's ABC actually has a video on this computer program, which explains the calculations as an electronic guided tour of our global behavior since 1900. So yeah, it looks like, maybe it's not that fun, but it looks like there was a computer program in the 70s that was using climate change and population growth and agricultural expansion is put it into a computer, and it looked like that's where we'd be ending by. I'm interested in that because this is like relevant because of the Ukraine stuff. So people always go to, this is like the end of the world, and you'll get it in emails in these trying times, and it's like I feel like everyone always thinks that the world's ending, and we see bushfires and floods and war coming, and people turning on their own government, at storming the Capitol or whatever. And I just feel like, yeah, it does feel like the world's ending. It really does. But is it because we're exposed to all this stuff now? And yeah, like no one's denying climate change apart from the climate change deniers, but
you got to give them credit for sticking to their beliefs.
You got to give
it's
them
right
credit.
there in the name. They don't try to pretend to be anything else.
But it's like it's hard to gain some perspective because people when they see the floods, I'm seeing things online and people going, Scott Morrison, this is blood on your hands because you're not doing enough about climate change. And it's kind of like, well, I mean, is it directly related to that? And is it directly Scott Morrison's fault? I mean, I saw some protesters they got wreckage from the floods in Queensland and dumped it at Kirribilli, and they were like, this is ScoMo's fault. I mean, I'm not saying that ScoMo's doing enough. It seems like he's not. But like, is all this stuff directly related to climate change? Are we going to just destroy ourselves? Is this the end of the world?
Well, gosh, lots of things to jump onto there. I guess starting at the end and working backwards. I think some of the criticism about ScoMo is totally valid because his party, for the past 10 years it's been in power, has actively done everything it can to not make any progress in improving Australia's preparedness for climate change. It's treating it for a real thing. It is only very recently that even the slightest statement, like, I think ScoMo 2 weeks ago said something along the lines of, you can't deny that our climate is changing. Even that is like the
it's
least,
like we've moved on from that.
The smallest step of progress towards accepting it's even real after, removing the carbon tax, actively like opening further coal like mines and coal powered electricity plants, and letting refuse be pumped into the ocean by the Great Barrier Reef, and all this kind of like historical precedent for really just pretending like it's not happening and not giving a shit in quote unquote saving the economy kind of mindset, where it's like, we can't afford to make these changes, so we're not going to because it doesn't align with our business and industrial interests. All of that kind of mentality, which has been the prevailing and dominant undercurrent of our energy policy in Australia for the past decade, is the responsibility of the Libs. That is their shoulder to that they need to shoulder that, because it has been their doing. And so then when climate change continues to happen and you see the explicit results of that, like bushfires and floods, come to pass, and not only is it happening and worsening, and the government has been in denial about it, but then the actual processes for helping people has been bureaucratic, slow, and disorganized. I think that's very reasonable to turn to ScoMo and say, hey, fuck you, you should have done something.
Sure. Just to jump in there, I totally agree with all of that. But I think it's just that people acting like it's his fault. Like, this is like your fault. Like, it's, even if Australia shut down all of their energy production, it, like, these floods probably will still happen if they are caused by climate change. They'll still happen.
Yeah.
So yes, I understand that Australia is a contributor to it, and their policies contribute to that as a whole.
Yeah.
But just to say this is your fault is not true.
Yeah, I mean, you can't make a causal link between Scott Morrison sitting down in the Prime Minister's chair and a flood ripping through New South Wales. Of course not.
Yeah.
But if you take that logic to the end point, that means no one's responsible for anything, and so nothing fucking happens. So at some point, it has to be someone's responsibility. Otherwise, we're not getting out of this. And if Australia was in a proactive stance and had maintained a carbon tax, for instance, and changed the incentives and supported a green energy revolution and invested in solar power and advocated for it on the world stage, then maybe we would be in a declining trend of temperature and international weather events, rather than still on a very scary upward trajectory.
That's a good point.
To go one further step back about the computer program thing in the 1970s, you may not know this may not have been in the article that you read, but do you know if they have taken a program from the 70s, imported modern data, today's data, and ended up with 2040, or in the 1970s, did they put 1970s data in, and back then it said 2040? Because I feel like the stats back then would have been better than the stats currently, right? Like, I don't know that really anyone was tracking climate change in the 70s. That was an 80s thing,
Oh, you mean
right?
better in the sense that it's leading
like
against
population growth and energy usage and all of those data are now 60 years, 50 years out of date. So if they're using that data and ending up with 2040 versus today's data, that's quite different.
Well, I don't have that exact information, but it does add this towards the end of the article. It says Forrester, the author of a couple of books and the computer program, more or less it says more or less endorsed his conclusions to the end of his life in 2016 at the age of 98. He told the MIT Technology Review, "I think the books stand all right." Well, what a lukewarm endorsement of his own work. I think they're okay. I don't know. I don't have that info. I didn't,
because otherwise it does feel a little bit, just a little bit, Baba Yaga-y.
Well, here's the clinker here, Nick.
Did you say here's the clinker?
Yeah, it's my new thing that I've adopted from someone. Actually, no. You know what? I'm not going to give you the clink. Because you'll just
Gosh,
judge
you're just
me.
withholding everything today.
Just guess it. You'll guess it.
Here's the clincher. Baba Yaga also predicted the end of the world in 2040.
Baba Yaga. Baba Yaga. Do you mean Baba Vanga?
Sure. Oh yeah, the
Baba
Baba Yaga
Yaga.
is
Racist.
It's a different thing. I mean, no, racist. It's not racist.
You're dead naming Baba Vanga.
Baba Vanga. Sorry, I didn't realize Baba Vanga used to be Baba Yaga. That's very different.
What the hell are you Googling right now, by the way?
I'm Googling
What
Baba
the fuck
Yaga
are you Googling?
to make sure that I'm talking about the same thing. What are
is
you calling it?
Baba
Baba
Yaga like a
Vanga?
Star Wars thing?
No, Baba Yaga
Baba
is like a Slavic witch.
Oh, she was Slavic, Baba Vagt.
Well, yeah, if there's Baba in it, it's probably from the same place, isn't it?
Anyway,
Anyway.
I've got just jumping off my own questions to you.
Yeah.
What do you think about the end of the world? Like, do you think that we, like, it seems theoretically likely that we could be. I mean, first of all, the more time we spend with each other, the more likely it is that we would kind of blow ourselves up. I'm like kind of talking about now, like the Ukraine stuff.
Okay, so I thought for a second that you're talking about you and me personally. That the longer Michael and Nick stay together, the more likely it is it ends in like murders.
Well, I think that theory holds for almost any situation / relationship, and much like the relationship we have with each other as Earthlings.
Sure. You said that in an unsettling way.
Yeah, thank you. I was trying to. So we've got time. So we're fighting time, and we're also fighting technology increasing. What do you think? And we're also fighting population growth. What do you think about? Are we doomed? Are we gonna hit a plateau and then stay on that for a while and then kind of decline, or are we gonna find? Because I was so optimistic about life probably 5 years ago. I was so optimistic, and I was like always like, I mean, granted, I knew nothing about life, and now I know obviously everything.
Yeah,
but I was
that was
always
the
just
big
feel
difference.
Like humans would just work it out. Like we'll work it out. Like we'll grow. Our morals will grow. It felt like we're progressing in every facet of life. Like we'll just like work it out, man. And now I'm like, no, we won't. We won't fucking work it out. We won't. We'll just hate each other more. It's like we're literally monkeys, just with big toys. Like we'll fuck it up. We will fuck it up, and not we will fuck it up. Men will fuck it up. And I know that's I reckon men will fuck it up. Men will blow up the world, and it will be all of men's fault. And then in heaven, when all the women are in heaven and all the men are in hell. And everyone's really horny.
That's the gay agenda.
All the gay guys just up there like, well, we'd never do that. And then they're the ones who are in heaven having sex with all the bitches.
Heaven full of all women is actually hell for gays. So that's actually, that's their punishment.
Yeah. But when I said women, I meant gays as well.
Oh,
like just all.
Okay, great. I think I take a middle ground, which is that I think that humanity has a sort of cockroachy quality now, where it will survive most things through sheer numbers plus resources plus willpower. However,
Interesting.
I also think we are totally capable of making things much, much worse for ourselves due to animalistic stupidity. So I think that in 80 years time, the world is going to be 3 degrees hotter, and it's going to be really hard to grow crops and to keep cool, and it'll be dramatically unstable in terms of weather events, and life will go on. I think people will make do. However, the cost of that will be the erasure of entire countries and cultures, and the favoring of rich industrialized nations over upcoming and second world countries or weather ravaged areas, and we will lose things that we can never get back, but some proportion of the world will continue because it's rich enough and industrialized enough and technologically sophisticated enough and motivated enough to make do with whatever shithole we end up in.
Yeah, I mean, not starting to. I mean, science fiction writers have been predicting this for ages. I mean, like your Elysiums, your Mad Max, your District 9 or whatever. I don't even know if that was sci-fi, but like the children of men, like these dystopian futures that these science fiction writers have been writing about, where technology is, beyond our imagination now, but also it's just barren and dusty and dirty and there's no life, on the planet. Like, it just feels like, I don't know.
Well, and
It
it's
just
also
feels
the
like that
class
could be
split,
so
right?
true.
Like, that's the Elysium thing, where you have the real rich people living in this sort of heavenly places, and then the underclass struggling in famine and destitution, as you say. But yeah, it seems very plausible. It's not a cheery thought, but it seems plausible.
No. Well, if that's the case, we are just living in the absolute sweet spot of life now, where like of human life, where we're enjoying the benefits of technology without enjoying without suffering the consequences of dystopia or whatever. I mean, I just keep thinking about this all the time these days, that like people, for so many people, their life sucks. And for so many people it's not even just people that are alive now, people like most of the people that have ever existed, their life has just sucked, and they've worked so hard and they've gone through so much pain.
Yeah.
And my life is comparatively so unbelievably good.
Yeah.
That even at my lowest, that like it's just still so much better.
Yeah,
And
your
it's all
absolute
perspective.
lowest, darkest moment is still the 98th percentile of every human that's ever lived.
So many people, if you think about people like in the fucking because personally, the medieval ages, I don't know why, I would just absolutely not have it. I would not do well in the medieval ages. I'm not cut for the medieval ages.
Would
No,
you go
sorry,
earlier
Bob.
though? Like, do you reckon you'd be okay?
I
Like
would.
2000 BC, pyramids.
I would. Honestly, if it was a choice, I'd go way earlier than medieval. I don't know. There's something about medieval. It's just like, ugh, icky.
It's just smelly.
But icky, gross, witches, gross, scary. Because there were no witches before.
No
then. Did
witches
you know that?
before that. Yeah, before Jesus.
Before Jesus. So I would much rather. You know what I'd like? If you have to go way back,
Dinosaurs.
I mean, it all sucks. Yeah, probably dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Just when there's no one around. Can you imagine that? There's no man-made things anywhere. But anyway, you're distracting me. People have suffered so fucking much that, like, if you actually think about it, I cannot even bear the actual thought. Like, people have suffered so fucking much just on their day-to-day life. I'm just like, I'm blown away by that thought, honestly.
Yeah. And you're sitting here in a Deep Fort shirt that you've
And
printed
I'm feeling...
and drinking a wine, and this is what life is.
And I'm not happy.
Yeah.
So, and I'm still not happy. And I still think about that. Maybe it's because I'm thinking about medieval poo buckets that I'm like all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. I'm not happy.
Well,
No, actually, I'm happy. I don't want to put that out there.
I've had this sort of pinned in my notes for years actually, because I've always found it an interesting thought, but it's never been quite enough, I think, to sustain a full conversation. But I have this quote here. So there was a We Will Survive panel at WorldCon 76. I don't know what WorldCon is. Rebecca Roan-Horse pointed out that Indigenous people are living post-apocalyptic societies and cultures. For Indigenous people, they are already in the post-apocalypse. An alien invader or a technological uprising has stripped them of their land, cultures, homes, and rights, and they are living in the post-apocalypse right now.
Wow. That's an interesting take.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds... Yeah. Does she expand on that at all?
There was a whole talk. That's only the thing that I have pinned here. But I did find it was an interesting thought experiment there to realize that there's already examples of that within human culture and history today, from which
is that what is post-apocalyptic. What is that?
Well, I guess it depends on your definition. Like, we started this conversation talking about barren wasteland and struggles for food and that sort of thing. Obviously, that's not exactly the case for Indigenous cultures now. What they're talking about is a loss of personhood, of agency, of culture, of language, of geography, of the intrinsic worth of their society, right? That's been stripped away.
Wikipedia says that it's and I agree that it's very interpretable, that term. But I just wanted to know, because when she's saying a post-apocalyptic, she's just kind of focusing on having a community or a civilization, not a civilization. Like what's the other word for that?
Society,
like
culture,
society having something stripped away from them. So post-apocalyptic is depicting the Earth's civilization collapsing or has collapsed, and the apocalypse event may be climatic, as climatic, such as astronomical, such as impact event, destructive, nuclear holocaust, blah blah blah.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that you can take the start there, and say that that's a valid application of the term.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, interesting. People have always thought, though, that they're civil. Like, I know it's a kind of maybe a very religious thing, but every generation of people has always thought that Jesus is coming in their lifetime. You know?
Well, that is a very good point, because if you bring it back to that, millennia old narrative, right? It's the idea that there is a risk of ruin, a risk of society ending, was clearly a worry or a concern to have been embodied in the lore of this culture 2,000 years ago.
Yes.
And for it to have been a present worry and fear in culture 2,000 years ago means that it was already something that they had witnessed or concerned or thought about before then. It doesn't just come out of nowhere.
But what do you chalk that down to? Is that maybe it's an evolutionary device that we've built, that kind of, like, maybe the worry kind of propels us forward in a survival way, or but also from an individualistic point of view, it's like, almost evolutionarily speaking, why do you care?
Is the apocalypse really just a inevitable consequence of the expansion of life? Like, the further that cultures grow, the more people there are, the geographically closer that they get to each other, the more they infringe on the boundaries of other societies, the more technologically they can spread around the world, the more we understand about what's happening, both on the planet and our actions on it, and sort of even and in our position in the solar system and beyond. Is it inevitable that with that comes a understanding of our perilous existence, but also a necessary conflict? Like, all of that comes with conflict, and every conflict brings with it a risk of loss. I don't know whether, like, you would have the concept of an apocalypse in tribal society where it's like one village has 100 people in it, right? Like, does that you would think about it on the scale of a village, but the bigger your brain gets and the bigger your understanding of the world, the bigger your fear of the destruction.
Very interesting point. The apocalypse is a huge part of the New Testament in the Bible. I believe at that point they still thought the earth was flat and the earth was a dome. So I don't know how that plays into it. I mean, at some point, an apocalypse is necessary. Don't you agree? Like, even if you are
conceptually necessary, you have to arrive at the idea of an apocalypse, or you think,
well, it's a finality. It's the finality of life. It's, even if you are living in a tribe, it is people live and then they die. Even if you think you're going to live after you die, whatever, there's like a finality there. So I guess the apocalypse concept is an expansion of that. But also in very real terms, the apocalypse will happen at some point to human civilization.
Will it?
It just will.
Well, I suppose at some
point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And eventually there will
If
be
it happens
no more
on
humans.
Earth, but maybe we'll proliferate throughout the universe. But at some point, the universe will die.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
you're right.
Well,
But you can
we got
only
deep
know
there, I
about
reckon.
that if you know about an Earth and about a galaxy and about, the...
Sure, but it's like it's all you could. It's a macrocosm of our village idea, like
Yeah.
our village, or it's a micro, or the village idea is the microcosm of.
No, I think you're right the first time. I think that the concept of an apocalypse only becomes... Like, there is a threshold where it's not an apocalypse, right? Like, if you kill one ant colony, that's not an ant apocalypse because there's other ant colonies, right? So there is a threshold,
Massacre, but it's not.
yeah, exactly. There's a threshold at which it becomes apocalypse, right? When it affects all of something.
Yeah.
So I think you're right that it starts at a town level, and that at a certain point, as we understand more about our place in the world and more in our place in the universe, then you understand that that's a possibility. Then you can conceptualize only when you know there are countries on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
And only once you've traveled there and understand the distances, and only once you have the technology to design a plane or design a bomb or design a thing, only once you advance to that scope can you conceive of apocalypse.
Yeah. It's are you worried about like nuclear war? Are you worried about this? I mean, it just feels like I heard a nuclear academic. Oh, that's wrong. Like he was like an academic guy who'd just been studying nuclear war forever. And he was on Bill Maher the other day, and he was like, this is the closest and the most scared that I've felt to that nuclear war will happen. Because Putin, just from his language and from his behavior, it just seems like, it could happen. And, I mean, just like, fuck. I mean, it's probably not going to affect... I mean, talk about climate change. I mean, drop a fucking A-bomb in this bitch. It's going to ramp up the climate change, surely.
I mean, I don't know what that would do. I mean, obviously, you have the immediate localized effects of an atomic bomb, but I don't know how to extrapolate what that does to a weather system. I mean, if you suddenly cut off power grids and population is killed and lowered, like potentially it slows the rate of climate change. Like, I'm not saying that we should have a nuclear war.
Putin should just go nuts.
I'm saying if there was a nuclear apocalypse, it would definitely slow the human impacts of climate change.
I think the listeners are reading between the lines here. You're for the war in Ukraine because you think it will slow down climate change. Well,
I'm
you
a
heard
lefty.
it here first,
What can I
folks.
say?
There you go. There's the
Playing my
progressive
work card.
agenda. Tucker Carlson, you listening? Because I just found your opening monologue.
You did not.
I felt like if I stuck that
You did
landing,
not
it would
stick that
be so
landing.
good.
The opening monologue.
All right,
that's
before we
embarrassing.
drop this topic,
Yeah.
let's just predict when the world's going to end, and then see if we're right. And maybe we'll do it a post-apocalyptic episode.
Define the world ending. We're talking the extinction of humanity.
Yep.
No more human beings exist.
No more.
I
What's your year?
don't know. 100,000.
Whoa. Jeez. It'll be on the iPhone 47 by then.
Yeah. They take a couple of years
Pro.
off.
I'm gonna go so much earlier than that. I'm gonna go 2500
Okay.
BC. No. AD, obviously.
Yeah, great joke.
Time travel. Yeah, I think it's gonna. I'm give us another
stick
500.
around. Let's see whether or not we get there.
I don't think we'll be doing it by definitely by 100.
Definitely by 100,000
AD.
AD.
This podcast will be well and truly over. Although you never know, Nick. Maybe we pass the baton on to
I reckon
some two
what?
handsome, smart,
Clones of
sexy,
ourselves. Yeah.
clones. No, not clones, but just like friends.
We could very literally get a radio antenna, broadcast Deep Fort, and shoot it out into space, and it would be there for eternity. So why not do that?
I think, so Nick will put up a GoFundMe link in the chapter notes here.
For the intergalactic broadcast of Deep Fort. Please
Deep Fort
donate.
in space,
Yes.
guys. Get on it. If you want to hear Deep Fort in space, go to www.gofundme/deepfort in motherfucking space.
And just to confirm, that is just 2 W's. That's www.
2 W's.
2
That's all you
W's.
need. Don't worry about the third one. And don't worry about the HTTP crap. Don't worry about that.
Don't worry about any of it.
Do you have to write? What was the HTTP? I don't even know that. What is that?
Hypertext.
Because sometimes you have
transfer
to write
protocol.
it. Okay, forget it.
If you've enjoyed this conversation, that's very flattering. Thank you. It means you might also have clinical depression. So, just from one friend to another, you might need to take a moment and have a look at that. There's plenty more episodes of this at our archive at deepfort.podbean.com, or just scroll down in your podcast player. There's plenty of fun stuff there. You can find us on Facebook, on Twitter for notifications, on Instagram for clips and imagery. Send your questions and comments to deepfort@gmail.com. Find our music on SoundCloud or on Spotify. And just don't worry about it too much. It's all going to be okay.
Just quickly, because this loosely ties in back with the Armageddon thing, that I had the thought the other day that that Radiohead at some point will just be like, this is the last Radiohead album.
Yeah.
There will be no more Radiohead.
I know. I feel like it's soon. I almost reckon the next one might be the last one.
I feel that
been
too.
7 years. No, 5 years. It's been 5 years since Moonshaped Pool. I reckon they will come back, but I reckon there's maybe one left.
What are we gonna do? I will literally cry.
Yeah.
But also, they're Radiohead are getting into their mid-50s. Nick, we are about to be they're about to be dad rock.
It's true. But it's actually
not cool anymore or whatever.
Think about all the other things they're
Pink
doing,
Floyd.
right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but also if Johnny Greenwood's doing music scores, you can't really call him dad rock, can you? When he's scoring the next PTA film or Spencer or whatever, you can't quite lump him in with someone replaying the hits, can you?
Sure. No, and I guess music has changed, and they are also so progressive in that regard. I feel like they're not gonna stop making music even if Radiohead ends, right? They're just gonna spin off and do their own little noodling for a bit. Yeah, I agree, but I just that day when they announce that Radiohead is no longer gonna make music.
Yeah,
fuck.
Sad day. It's coming.
Anyway.
Yes. Shall we do a bit of a wreckage? Just put some. I don't know where that sentence goes. Grab the keys. Welcome to Deep Fort's recommendation engine. Back's very sore today. Back's
You got a sore back? I had a sore back the other day. Is skeletal or muscular?
Muscular. I think I just need to get on the foam roller and give it a bit of a roll, a bit of a stretch.
I'll give you a massage after this.
Oh, thanks, baby. Okay.
I put some effort into my recs because I'm going off script.
You're not going off script if you've written it down.
No, okay. I wrote a script, but okay,
If anything, you're going on script, which is very rare for you.
I'm thinking more laterally
Okay.
with the Rex because I know we get into, and I don't want to put
Bananas.
your Rex.
Have you tried them? Full of potassium.
Fuck. Fine, I'll find something else. I do love a banana.
You can't abbreviate banana to banan.
I love abbreviating things that you just take off one symbol.
Or you know what? If you really want to confuse people, just call it a naan. Say, "Oh, I had a naan for lunch." It's like, "Oh, really? No curry? No, a banana." I call them naans for short.
Or you could really confuse people by ordering a naan and say, "Yeah, I had a garlic nana."
Yeah, then it gets very confusing. Cheesy naan.
We're silly.
We're silly billies. Okay, am I kicking it off or are you kicking off?
You kick.
Okay, starting with a music rec for you.
Give me.
The band Midlake has come back with a new album for the first time in, I think, 8 years. It is called For the Sake of Bethel Woods. And man, I've been hammering this over the past week or so, 5 days.
Now, this was the band that you were into. You tried to get me onto them a bunch of times, right? German band or something?
No, that's Kashmir. Midlake is an American sort of folky band.
Of course, it's Kashmir.
Midlake had a very I don't know the way to describe. They had a very lyrical sounds obvious, but like a very lyrical folky nature where it was like storytelling. They would tell almost like concept albums but set in like the 1800s or like about villages and settlements and that kind of thing. And after 3 albums,
they wrote songs about villages.
Yeah, like at villagers and villages.
Oh, villagers.
Villagers right. And villages, but like about settlements and like building houses and like gathering wood to fix the roof leaks and that kind of stuff.
And the album's called For the Sake of Bethel Woods.
For the Sake of Bethel Woods. And so
pictured here wearing all the same coat.
Yeah.
For some reason.
Yeah.
I like that. All right, cool.
So they did 3 albums with their lead singer who then I think had a few issues and left the band. And they had
Me too.
one follow-up album called Antiphon in 2014. And that was 8 years without anything, and they've just come back. And Antiphon was a little bit of an evolution. It was a little bit more electric, a little bit like 70s rockier, like a little bit trippier or grungier. And then 8 years, and they come back again, and it's totally doing it for me. It's got sort of a Grizzly Bear kind of hint to it at times. It's got a little bit of Arcade Fire in the mix, and this really like fun. Yeah, I don't know, like a
would I like
lightness. I reckon you
More
got a decent chance. Like I remember about 6 months ago, you're like, I'm craving a rock band. I'm craving a rock album again. I haven't heard like guitars in a while.
Yeah,
I feel like you got a good chance.
To the Foo Fighters, and yeah.
So I would definitely give this one a listen. I reckon you got a decent chance of liking some of it.
I've got one song saved on there from Midlake on my Spotify, and it's from Late Night Tales by Groove Armada called Roscoe, Beyond the Wizard's Sleeve.
Yeah, that remix.
You know that one?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a remix.
Yeah, but it's good.
All right, cool. I'll give it a whirl.
Give that one a bash. I reckon you got a chance of liking a bit of it.
All right, I'll give it out. All right, so I've got a rec. I've got one hell of a goddamn rec for you, Nick. Let me ask you this. Do you get calluses on your hands? I know you lift. You lift, bro.
I feel like this is a trap, but yes.
No?
Yes.
You get a callus?
Okay. You're always talking about going to the gym. Yeah, I do.
I also get calluses. I have
you lift, bro?
Notorious rough hands.
Yeah.
And it's been pointed out to me a fair bit lately, actually, and a little self-conscious about it.
You got
to be honest. And so I looked up online how to get rid of calluses, and turns out I just thought, once a callus, always a callus.
Yeah.
I just thought these bad boys were for life.
Yeah.
Turns out you can snip
Unlike-
those bitches right off.
Unlike Will Smith, these are not bad boys for life.
Unlike herpes, you don't have it for life. And I went and got myself a callus remover.
Yeah.
3,000 over
Yeah.
here. You heard about these?
Yeah.
Basically, what it is, it's like a hand. You can get it at your local pharmacy, and it's like a. I'm showing Nick here, but it's kind of like a spoon, but there's like a blade, a very sharp blade at the end. So I wouldn't use it as a spoon to eat ice cream from, especially from the back. But what you can do is it's basically just dead skin. This is such a good wreck. It can also remove corns from your foot. But you just basically put it into the back of your hand and slide it down like that. And Nick, I did this the other day, and yes, to many people this would be incredibly gross, and even to me it was gross. But I just peeled, like cut off these calluses, and now my hands, I feel like a 13-year-old girl again. Honestly, it's like my hands are smooth, they're groove, and they're ready to move. Honestly, and
What a tagline. They're smooth, they're groove, they're ready to move.
I mean, not a tagline you want for the description of a 13-year-old girl's hands. Especially coming from a man.
Yeah.
But
I
honestly,
might need to put a content warning at the start of this recommendation.
slap a content warning on here, but
Yeah.
the people will get it. $9 at Chemist Warehouse. Highly recommend it. It's changed my life. It's changed my game.
And have
quite
people been
frankly.
noticing? Like, are you putting a little bit of moisturizer on the hands afterwards? Are you going in for a handshake and people saying, "Wow"?
I haven't touched anyone's hands
Okay.
since the callus remover 4,000. But I was
You look
in
forward to
a
it.
little bit of a bit of a handhold situation the other day,
Cool.
and it came up.
It came
up.
Wait,
and I feel like
pre-removal? Or
Pre-remove.
Pre-removal, okay.
Pre-remove.
Okay.
But it's been a constant thing for me. Like people, whenever I've held someone's hands, my priest would always say, you got rough hands, and I'm like, I'm 15 years old, and
But you had them even when you were 15?
I actually did though, man. I actually did. I've always had rough hands. I have the hands of a bricklayer.
Yeah.
But I've honestly never laid a brick in my life.
No,
but
people would believe that.
$8. Turns out $8 you
Yeah.
can solve that. Just snip those bad boys right off. So
Yeah. Or you can
Get a
get one of
callus
the
remover.
automated, have you seen the ones that are like a little sort of spinning automated tool with like a sandpaper belt on the end?
No.
And you just like, bzzz,
you just file it down.
just file it down.
Oh, that sounds great. I think I like the immediate reward of like the snipping off, and then you got this big chunk of dead
Okay,
skin.
Yeah, gross.
And then you can chew on that like
Okay,
a beef jerky.
Moving on. Okay, a little bit of audio. Kind of follow this audio loop. Not audio loop. Audio trend.
Poop.
Audio thread at the moment with a podcast recommendation. So there is this show called Dead Eyes. Do you know anything about Dead Eyes?
Not a goddamn thing.
Okay, I might read the little descriptor here. So,
Look it up.
actor-comedian Connor Ratliff embarks on a quest to solve a very stupid mystery that's haunted him for 2 decades. Why Tom Hanks fired him from a small role in the 2001 HBO miniseries Band of Brothers.
I'm listening.
So this is a serialized narrative podcast, as I said, starring a guy called Connor Ratliff, who was an aspiring actor, was given a role in Band of Brothers, and then had that role taken away in a cruel twist of fate, and it has haunted him.
That's for real, right?
For real. This is a real thing. This is a real true thing. You have to start, if you're going to listen, you have to start at the beginning, start with episode 1. You can't just listen to the most recent one. And then over the course of several 10-episode seasons, he explores the implications of this. He goes very, very deep in speaking to the people involved, in speaking to agents who were there, in trying to get a hold of the casting actors, and hoping one day to be able to speak to Tom Hanks directly and learn why he was let go. So
adding this immediately to my list.
It is a very entertaining thing. You'll hear like celebrity cameos.
It's a HeadGum podcast.
It's a HeadGum series. You'll find him interviewing people that you've heard. Like he's within the UCB improv circles. So there's like Darcy Carden and Zach Woods and that kind of thing popping in to talk him through some of the drama of what happened. But if you're looking for like an interesting, funny, like overcommitment to a bit kind of narrative serial exploration, Dead Eyes is a good
Can't wait to give that a whirl. I see Seth Rogen's involved as well.
Yeah, don't scroll too far down the list. Just let it unfold.
All right, that sounds great. Good rec. Sounds really good. My other rec is another tool. So Nick, you relate to this, being a fellow tool. Do you like boiled eggs? I love that both of our recs have started like, do you get calluses? Do you like boiled eggs?
It's like
Answer the fucking question.
It's like tuning into the shopping channel at 2 a.m. Does this ever happen to you?
Does it ever happen to you? Let me pitch it like that, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Nick, does this ever happen to you?
Do you
ever boil an egg and you forget about it on the counter and it's too hard and the shell won't open, or maybe you just think, maybe I've had this egg on the boil for 11 minutes and it's only been 3 minutes and the yolk is runny and there's like still a chicken in there and it's going, Mama, I'm hot. Get me out of here. Do you ever have that problem? I got the solution for you.
A clock. It's called clock.
It's called cluck. It's a boiled egg timer, yes, but not a clock. It doesn't
It's the silicone
care
one
about
that you put in a thing of water, and then when it heats up, it shows you how hard boiled it is.
Do me a favor. Shut the fuck up for 2 seconds. Yes, it's exactly that. Okay, so it's not a clock in the sense that this device doesn't give a shit about time. It gives a shit about how hard your egg is. Okay, and that's the real time. That's the real time, guys. So it's like you can buy this, and again, probably $4 or $5. You can probably get it when you're getting your callus shaver. Mm-hmm. Up to you. Probably.
They stock them at the pharmacy.
I don't think the chemist will. No, you probably have to if you're in one of those shopping centers
mall,
that has like a shopping, like a pharmacist and a Coles or whatever.
Yeah.
Get it at Coles or a homeware department. But $4 or $5, it's in the shape of an egg, so all of the other eggs will just be like this. This is like they won't freaked out.
Yeah,
they'll be like, oh, I guess this is another egg.
Yeah, they're not. They're not going to react negatively. They're not going to cause like drama.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, fitting in with the other eggs. It blends in. But meanwhile,
it's like undercover boss.
This egg is undercover. And it's actually timing all the other eggs. Uh-huh. It's going, I'm this hot, so the other eggs must be similarly hot.
Yeah.
And then it has on the things, it has like soft, it kind of, the heat thing goes in and goes from soft to hard or whatever. So you can just chuck it in with your boiled eggs and you get the perfect boiled egg. And for me, I like a kind of a in between hot and hard and soft. I like a medium, I think.
Yeah.
I like a medium boiled egg, and very hard to precisely get a medium boiled egg. But this is the way to do it. Until now, guys. So Nick,
do you remember our famous podcast last year? Good things come to those who egg, in which I gave
who could forget it?
Great egg cracking advice.
Yeah.
Now we're back with another
advice.
Cracking advice. Another killer egg tip. And I think we are cornering this market. I don't hear many other podcasts coming in hot with egg news like this.
I think we're about one more egg fact away from this being a new segment, to be honest, Nick. Given our history.
Yeah.
But yeah, go pick yourself up an egg timer if you like a boiled egg, because it's honestly game changer.
On that, to answer your initial question, I don't eat boiled eggs with any regularity, but they do come in ramen, and I will quite happily enjoy a boiled egg in a ramen. So
you do order an extra egg?
I don't order an extra egg, but I do like it when it's there.
They're incredibly good for you. They taste.
Where did we land with cholesterol though? Aren't eggs high in cholesterol?
I think there was an 80s thing. I think we've forgotten that. I think now we're like, nah, all of the egg.
That's all
get
good.
all the egg.
Okay.
I think in the 80s they thought eggs was bad, but now
eggs was good now.
Yeah, eggs was good again. Make eggs good again.
Great rec, Michael. Thanks for coming to the table so prepared.
I really scraped the barrel.
Yeah. I got one more little bit of recce for you, which is just some TV things. I don't think you personally are gonna like them, but I'm just putting it out there.
I'll just play a game.
There's a show called Yellow Jackets, which was a Showtime series. It has Melanie Linsky and Christina Ricci and others. It is a weird kind of blend of like a horror survival kind of show with a lost flashback structure. So this soccer team crashes in the wilderness, a whole bunch of 16-year-old girls who need to survive but end up forming like a cannibalistic cult. And then in the present day, some of the people have survived and got free, and we're trying to we cut back and forth between the now and the then as we see what they did haunts them and the consequences of it in the present day. It's a little bit soapy, it's a little bit slasher, it's just a fun kind of genre show. It's good.
I do like what's her name, Melanie Linsky.
Melanie Linsky is an incredible
She's fun.
actress. Yeah,
she's great.
Did you see something in this world? I don't know. I don't feel alone.
I don't belong in this world.
I don't
feel alone.
Something like that. I don't belong.
No, I didn't see that.
The one with Frodo.
Elijah Wood
and Melanie Linsky. Yeah.
Okay.
Good movie.
I didn't.
Anyway. And then the other show I'm watching at the moment is called Station 11. And this is a very interesting recommendation because it is literally about a viral apocalypse which ends the world. So it's quite topical. For what we talked about this episode. Station 11. It's based on a book, but by all accounts, the TV show's better. They've actually improved it. Okay. And it is this beautiful kind of cathartic story of optimism. It's strange to recommend a post-apocalyptic story, but it's not actually a doer kind of Walking Dead survival thing. It's about how art saves people in the aftermath of the apocalypse and how people come together to share stories and perform Shakespeare. And it just tells lots of beautiful vignettes with a sort of surrealist poetry to it, and yet also depicts some of the early apocalyptic stuff in a way that feels kind of cathartic and heart-wrenching for people like us who have actually lived through that kind of era. It's a really, really strong show. It's by a lot of the writers behind Maniac, that Jonah Hill and Emma Stone, and also The Leftovers, which is an incredible show that everyone should watch. So if you know those other ones and you like those vibes and you're willing to feel both moved and uplifted by a apocalyptic kind of show, Station 11 is it's kind of a masterpiece. It's really good.
It looks like HBO.
Yeah, they do.
Well, I reckon. Tell me the studio that's doing it, and anything by HBO, I'll probably check out.
Yeah. Yeah. But
speaking of Leftovers, a lot of people tell me I look like Justin Theroux. What do you think about that? It's maybe even handsomer.
I can sort of see it. You don't have his massive dick though.
Does he have a massive?
Oh, famously.
Yeah. How do you know that?
Oh, it was all over the news.
I follow him on Instagram.
Just Google Justin Theroux track pants.
Okay. All right. Something you've Googled, Nick?
No, I'm telling you, like this was not even in my porn circles. This was just like
Oh,
TV
what?
news.
Well, he was banging Jennifer Aniston for a while there, wasn't he?
I don't know, was he?
Wait, let me. Wait, what's his name again? Justin. I'm gonna look this up. Justin. Is this an incognito mode, Google?
Probably not.
Well, here we go. Justin Theroux, Pat Track Pants, Azos. Great. Oh, that's a nice piece. That is a nice piece. Yeah.
Yeah, like it was actual news, news for some reason.
Oh, there's a couple of gifs. Yeah, my boy's packing over there. Oh yes. How crazy is that? Louis Theroux's cousin, and yet I think Louis Theroux probably has the smallest dick ever.
Okay.
Doesn't that seem true?
I would hate to comment. Well, that's a strange end to a podcast.
Yeah, now I'm just looking at Justin Theroux's dick.